Tonight on CBC Vancouver News. Why parents and players are pleading for the return of school sports tournaments. Also,
that's horrific.
4 fatal fires in just 4 days, and now the warnings from Vancouver officials. Plus, the border town crumbling without visitors, and the message for British Columbians.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. A 37-year-old man is dead after an early morning fire in Vancouver's West End. His death marks the 4th fire fatality in Vancouver in just 4 days. And as the CBC's Michelle Gassoub reports, fire officials in the city say it's a trend that has them worried, and they're urging people to make sure homes are equipped to protect from flames.
Outside of their charred high-rise, neighbors compare notes about what they heard, saw, and smelt early this morning.
You said you're 808?
Yeah, 808.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm 608. So
okay. Oh, God. Yeah. So you heard that. How did you wake up?
A 37-year-old man is dead. The woman he lived with is in hospital with smoke inhalation. She climbed out of her 4th-floor window and in through her neighbor's window to escape. Neighbors shaken but unhurt.
It was warm when I got out of bed and touched the floor, for sure.
Vancouver Fire says it's still working to confirm the cause of the fire, though it's believed to be electrical. The death marks Vancouver's 4th fire fatality in just 2 days. Early Sunday, 3 people from the same family died after their home on East 41st caught fire. Among the dead, a 10-year-old child.
The grandfather, the mother, and the little boy. That's horrific.
Not much is known about the family, but neighbors say they may have been new to Canada. Fire fatalities are relatively rare in the city of Vancouver, so the past 2 days have left fire officials shocked.
Last year we had 5 fire deaths. Yesterday and today we've had 4. It worries me starting into January that we're seeing this kind of devastation, and we need to wake up Vancouver.
Fire officials say the house on East 41st didn't have functioning smoke alarms. The building on Pendrell did, according to a recent city inspection. But the building doesn't have a sprinkler system, which is required in all new buildings in the city of Vancouver.
They do save lives. Unfortunately, we have, especially on our West End, we have a lot of buildings that are older that were built prior to these regulations going in place.
Fire officials warning to check your smoke detector batteries, a 5-minute task that could save a life. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
The discovery of a body of a young man near Kamloops has now turned into a homicide investigation involving multiple police agencies. The victim was found in a shared parking lot of a church and health clinic on Kamloops-Tishkwetmik land. Not much is known about the man, but a black 2014 Honda Accord found about 22 kilometers away has been linked to the victim. Police are awaiting autopsy results and are appealing to anyone with information to come forward. And tonight we're speaking with parents who say it's just not right that community-based sports tournaments are allowed to return, but school events cannot. As Mayor Baines tells us, they're calling for an even playing field.
Delta High School basketball coach Lucky Tour is also a parent of 3 girls who play the sport. Right now, they can't in school due to public health rules.
So they've missed out on a large part of their season. And now, unfortunately, with this recent announcement, provincial championships are also in jeopardy.
The ban on school sports tournaments has been in place since December 21st to curb the spread of the Omicron variant. Tour signed a petition along with more than 10,000 others calling for the provincial government to lift the ban on BC high school sports tournaments. He says it's a critical time of year for sports scholarships and recruitment by post-secondary school coaches.
These games are available and streamed online, so many of them are tuning in, looking to recruit some of these players. And for those players that haven't had a chance to be recruited yet, this is a very large platform for them to get recruited.
He also coaches community-based teams and wonders what the difference is. Last week, Provincial Health Officer Dr. Bonnie Henry said because transmission of COVID-19 is going down and children's vaccination rates up, tournaments would resume.
Starting February 1st, next week, youth sports tournaments can once again resume. I know that this is an important time of the year for many different sports, especially team sports.
The government clarified school-based programs would not be resuming tournaments. While some criticize the split decision, for other parents, school tournaments pose too much of a risk from COVID-19 and precautions are needed. Jennifer Heighton is with the Safe Schools Coalition.
It is close contact. They're not wearing masks. They're breathing heavily up and down the court or on the ice. They're in dressing rooms, change rooms where there's very poor ventilation. You can't open the doors in a dressing room when people are changing. So you are looking at a situation where there are times and places where spread can happen.
The Ministry of Education says this coming week we are meeting with the province's K-12 steering committee made up of educators, parents, support workers, school leaders, trustees, Indigenous rights holders, ministry staff and public health experts to review the current guidelines with respect to school sports tournaments. Some parents are hoping the meeting will allow them to resume school tournaments scheduled for the coming weeks. Mira Baines, CBC News, Victoria.
And BC has hit a new record high of COVID patients in hospital, breaching 1,000 for the first time this pandemic. Hospitalizations are now at 1,048, up by 58 patients from Friday. But new hospitalizations are trending downward, 26% lower than the previous weekend. Those in critical care are down by at least 2 people to 138. 19 more people have died from COVID-19 over the last 3 days. Ongoing healthcare facility outbreaks remain at 58. And the City of Vancouver says it's reducing green bin collection to every 2 weeks as it deals with COVID staffing shortages. Green bins are meant for organic waste, including garden clippings, food scraps. Collections will now happen every 2 weeks on Garbage Day for the month of February. The city is apologizing for the inconvenience and says it anticipates the service will return to weekly pickups by the end of the month. And a controversial vote by Surrey Council on ending ethics complaints won't be going ahead as planned tonight. Mayor Doug McCallum walked back the plan that would have effectively shut down the city's ethics office. McCallum is himself facing a complaint with the ethics commissioner over the use of taxpayers' money that he is using to pay for a lawyer in his public mischief case. McCallum says he wants to close the office in order to ensure it's not used for partisan purposes ahead of the election. The BC SPCA set a new record in 2021 for the number of animals helped across the province. The organization helped close to 120,000 domestic farm and wild animals amid a year of pandemic and natural disasters. That's nearly 22,000 more animals than in 2020, and at least a third of them were assisted through direct rescue, sheltering, and rehabilitation. The rest were as a result of emergency response and community-based outreach programs. With Lunar New Year upon us, almost upon us, rather, it's happening tomorrow. Most big brands are taking part in the festivities, releasing tiger-themed products, while many in the Asian community are welcoming the participation. Leanne Young is speaking with advocates who also say it's time for that cultural connection to happen year-round.
Can't you see?
Just a few years ago, Madeline Chung would have been excited to see big brands buying in on Lunar New Year.
Because I was so used to not seeing myself represented or not feeling accepted by, Canadian culture or American culture.
But after the pandemic led to more instances of anti-Asian hate,
go back to China where you came from.
She says just dressing up a brand isn't enough.
It seems like they're not really celebrating the Asian community most of the year, but just this one time during the year, it's like a huge splash just to, make bank and to lure Asian customers.
For luxury brands, the Chinese market is too lucrative to ignore. By 2025, Chinese consumers are expected to account for up to 40% of the world's luxury spending. So these advocates want to see more than just window dressing.
I think a lot of times what we see is people checking boxes off and maybe more performative more than anything. I don't think the thought process is entirely there.
DSW Shoes sent out an email celebrating the Year of the Dragon, except 2022 is the Year of the Tiger. They later apologized. Products like these offered by handbag giant Coach, Chung says add little to the Asian community. While the company promotes Chinese artists in China, she thinks this was a missed opportunity.
They just dressed up their dinosaur in a tiger costume.
We reached out to Coach and no one responded to our inquiries, but advocates say there is a right way to do things. The Vancouver Canucks hired artist Trevor Lai to design a jersey, and they're donating partial proceeds to a local anti-Asian racism group, Eliminate Hate.
Some people might just see it as a logo, but it's all the thought that went into it.
As awareness grows, experts say businesses, especially in Canada, need to make diversity and inclusion a priority.
The younger demographics, the more mature demographic, they all really pay attention to what value behind the company.
Beyond just hiring Asian artists, advocates want to see decision makers who are reflective of their consumers, and brands should be engaging with communities year-round, so celebrating diversity isn't just a special occasion. Leanne Young, CBC News, Vancouver.
Selling you the promise of a good sleep has been a proven strategy for mattress companies, and many online retailers sweeten the deal by padding it with a hassle-free return policy. But some dissatisfied customers who dealt with one company say sending back the mattress they bought has not been as easy as advertised. Erica Johnson has the Go Public investigation.
Peter Learn says his mattress is not the stuff of dreams.
It's way too soft.
He ordered a $1,300 mattress after seeing ads online for Ghost Bed.
We don't just sell mattresses. We provide you the best comfortable sleep.
So many happy customers. Even tennis superstar Venus Williams thinks the mattress can't be beat. Ghost Bed's fighting for market share in the world of online mattress sales, up against companies like Casper, Endy, Purple, and Nectar, to name a few.
Purple perfected the science of sound sleep.
Mattress sales are booming in the pandemic, with more people spending time at home. The most enticing part of Ghost Bed's pitch, its promise of hassle-free returns up to 3 months after purchase.
I'm sinking right in.
But claims of comfort didn't hold up.
You know, you try sleeping on your side and your back, and I mean, if you slept on your stomach, you'd probably drown in the sponge, but it didn't work in any position.
When Learn said he wanted a refund and the mattress picked up, as promised on the website, he was told instead he had to find a charity that'd accept the mattress, get the mattress over to them, get a receipt, then send that to Ghost Bed.
There's no way that I'm going to find a charity that wants this, and there's no way I'm driving around in a truck for 2 weeks like an idiot with a mattress on my back.
He filed a complaint with the Florida BBB, where Ghost Bed is based. More than 300 complaints have poured in, some from other Canadians, too.
I just want you to do what you said you would do, right? If we're not happy, take the mattress back and give a refund.
They're not truthful. Frankly, they're dishonest.
No one from Ghost Bed would give an on-camera interview. A spokesperson said it does take customer satisfaction seriously, but did concede it could be more clear around what's actually needed to get a refund. So on that front, the Ghost Bed website is now more transparent. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Exemptions for some British Columbia flood victims around crossing our land borders into the States are coming to an end tonight. But what is staying put? The rule allowing all of us to head over to Point Roberts, and that's leading to all kinds of confusion and frustration. It's been 2.5 months since the Boundary Bay crossing reopened, but the wave of Canadian shoppers that businesses were expecting hasn't materialized, and it's not clear why. And joining me now to unravel some of that confusion is Brian Calder, president of Point Roberts Chamber of Commerce. Thanks for being with us today.
My pleasure, and thank you.
Brian, Point Roberts relies heavily on British Columbians. Are you seeing many come down right now?
Well, not near what we would have expected. And as part of the confusion of the border access that Point Roberts has, thankfully, special dispensation from an order in council in December proclaimed by the government of Canada. And we truly appreciate what they did. We just have to get the message out that our Canadians can come here. And as you pointed out, we are totally dependent for our economy on the Canadian participation. 90% of our economy comes from Canada, not the USA.
That is a lot of business from Canada. So what is the situation like for businesses right now? I mean, they've been at a breaking point since the pandemic began. Many have even gone under. So what is it like now?
It still feels like a ghost town, notwithstanding some Canadians have trickled in. But also on top of our 90% Canadian activity of our economy, we've got 75% of our real property here, the homes and so forth, owned by Canadians who've been denied access for 2 years. So they're apprehensive at the border with the COVID testing requirements and double vaxxing and all that, and 2 years of being denied. And they're apprehensive. And we need to get the message to them that they're welcome back here. And it's not that onerous now at the border. You can come in as a Canadian, double vaxxed. You come here for an hour, pick up a parcel gas or whatever, or a week or a month, and stay at your home here. You return, you must fill out an ArriveCan app in advance of presenting yourself at the border, and you're allowed back through. The only additional thing that might happen is you might get a random test. Your name comes up to have a random test, which you do after you returned home.
So I imagine it's sort of like a ghost town right now. There probably aren't a lot of people walking around at all. What's at stake for the community if this keeps up?
I saw 3 cars go by at 5 o'clock last night, and that was rush hour. It is devastated here. And I'm not trying to be funny, but you have to have survived this last 2 years, and hopefully not much longer it's going to go on. But yes, it's devastating to our businesses. Even I mean, we're fully aware that everybody is suffering from COVID all over the globe, certainly North America. We're suffering even more than that. I went to Bellingham Friday, doctor's appointment. And being in Bellingham, it's like business as usual compared to us. We know it isn't business as usual, but compared to us, it is. We are not happening. We need the people back here to make our economy recover before we are a total ghost town.
Yeah, and as you said, it's not happening because most of the people coming there are from Canada. Brian Calder with the Point Roberts Chamber of Commerce, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, I want to bring it back to Lunar New Year now. That is happening tomorrow, and kitchens across BC are busy cooking up a feast. Now, for some sights and sounds, we went to a restaurant in the Lower Mainland to see what they are preparing ahead of the festivities. Oh, I didn't watch this ahead of time because I wanted to feel hungry, I think. And it worked.
Same. Yeah, same. I've been lucky enough, Anita, in this gig to spend a few Lunar New Years at Aberdeen Centre, tasting the food, and it's all coming back to me. So yes, we are both salivating now, I think. And I've got a decent forecast for whatever festivities are underway tomorrow. I know we're missing our parade that usually takes place, but we've got more sunshine for everyone tomorrow. Nice to have a couple of days of sunshine to kick off the work week. Let me start you off with the temperatures right now. They are chilly. It's a 5 at YVR, but we're getting close to the freezing mark up towards the North Shore and out towards the valley. And with relatively clear skies tonight, we will see temperatures drop down to close to the freezing mark. Okay, a lot going on here on my setup map. This is the latest satellite picture. So high pressure just off the coast, our story today and our story tomorrow. So that's mainly going to protect us from any precipitation, but it is slowly sinking south, and that's going to allow two things to happen. Cold air to move down across the province and a low pressure system to slide in from the Pacific. And that collision will happen on Wednesday, bringing the chance of some light snow to Metro Vancouver. But let me get you through the overnight first. So generally clear until the pre-dawn hours. I'm pausing you around 5 a.m. There is a slight chance of some light showers, particularly down towards Richmond, South Surrey, and you can see sort of east of Abbotsford getting some snow in the valley. Now that'll clear out quite quickly through the day. We're looking at a mix of sun and cloud for the most part for your Tuesday. And Wednesday starting off fairly dry as well. So nice to get a couple of break days. But Anita, we got lots of snow forecasting to get through coming up later on in the show.
Okay, I'm ready for that. Thanks, Joe.
We're prepped. You're welcome.
The weather update is brought to you by Sophia Financial Group of Raymond James Limited. Register now for our free Cash Flow Connection series at sophiaevents.ca.
Not going anywhere. That's the message from Ottawa's protesters as they dig in for the long haul. The city feels the impact. We look at it next. Thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. One Toronto woman has been on a journey of rediscovering her familial roots. Lucy Liu and her family started having Chinese tea ceremonies every weekend with no screens allowed. She tells us about how it helped her find her way back to her culture.
On the weekend, whenever we are home, we drink tea together. I call them, they are busy, I don't know where. I just, tea time, they all come down. They know we have a dessert. Yeah, that's it.
My name's Lucy Liu, and I'm gonna walk you through a little bit of this ritual that we've started with my family during the pandemic, which is having tea every weekend with my mom. Calling it a ceremony, I almost feel like is a little much. I would say it's just like, it's quite casual. One of the important things, at least for us, is my mom will pour the first brew over, we have these like little Buddha figurines. Purpose of it is just to clean the pot and to clean the leaves. And if you want to get like a really fresh and like good brew on, in the first cup you drink, you actually pour out the first brew. And then, so my mom will pour it over the little figurines, and that's kind of like lucky to do. Yeah, and then after that, like my mom, she is, I guess, like the tea master. She does everything, and then she serves us the little cups of tea, and we have snacks, and we just chill. When I was growing up, I was very much wanting to fit in with the Canadian culture and to assimilate, so I really pushed away my culture, and it wasn't until I was an adult that I started to feel a need to reconnect with it. I started thinking about what parts of my culture I want to pass on to my children. So now it's kind of, I'm finding my way back to it, and I'm finding ways to reconnect with it.
Put the kids together and talk to each other, drink tea, eat a snack. They started enjoying the tea with me. Other time when I talk to them, they're busy on the phone, busy on the computer. Only tea time, they are free with me.
Like Chinese culture is such a big foodie culture. Like everything we do is around food. I mean, one of the food obviously is dumplings, and that's very much connected to Lunar New Year. When we're not in the pandemic, we would have all our family over and everybody would pitch in and make these dumplings together. I definitely think my mom shows her love through cooking for us, and I just think that's beautiful and lovely, and every time she makes us something good or something from China, like I feel very loved.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is in isolation tonight after testing positive for COVID-19, but he spoke publicly today for the first time since a huge protest took over Parliament Hill. As Travis Dunraj reports, he had sharp words for some of the demonstrators.
What are things like in downtown Ottawa right now?
To be honest, there's your answer.
Parked in protest, not going anywhere. A stalemate going into day 4 has made things pretty much grind to a halt around Parliament Hill.
The reason why they're here is for our freedom. It's all about freedom to us.
But that fight for freedom against vaccine mandates and COVID restrictions has meant restaurants, gyms, and other businesses set to open today as public health measures were eased remain closed. After a weekend that saw monuments desecrated, homeless shelters targeted, and acts of vandalism and harassment, the Prime Minister said this.
Canadians were shocked and frankly disgusted by the behavior displayed by some people protesting in our nation's capital.
A school in Ottawa was shut down today. The Rideau Centre, downtown's main mall, closed again. Police advised those who work in the downtown core to do so from home, and others to avoid the area altogether. A home flying the rainbow flag was defecated on, according to this city councillor.
Some of the convoy members had come back and were harassing them from outside. They're now moved over to a friend's place until the downtown is safe for them to return.
They should be ashamed of themselves. And at the end of the day, they're not getting any public support. It's dwindling, quite frankly. So I think it's time for them to move on.
What now remains the question. Police are trying to end things peacefully, but that may require time, a lot of it.
They will have to either be nudged to leave, or if it doesn't work, then there are bylaws, municipal bylaws that could apply.
Forcefully removing vehicles would be the next step. Patience is waning, the cost mounting. Taxpayers will be on the hook for about $800,000 a day for all of this. The truckers, they've raised over $9 million toward fuel and supplies, all needed for what could be a long-haul protest. Travis Stanreich, CBC News, Ottawa.
As those protests continue, MPs returned to the House of Commons today. And as Ashley Burke explains, the three parties are not aligned when it comes to the days-long demonstrations.
Protesters are digging in as Parliament returns, and federal parties are taking sides.
I do get very defensive of Canadians who are outside today, patriotic, peace-loving Canadians who are called misogynist and racist by the Prime Minister.
I think we all support free speech in this House, but there's a big difference between free speech and inciting hatred, inciting violence.
The Prime Minister, speaking from his Harrington Lake residence after testing positive for COVID, said he wouldn't entertain meeting protesters or addressing their demands to end all pandemic restrictions.
We are not intimidated by those who hurl insults and abuse at small business workers and steal food from the homeless. We won't give in to those who fly racist flags. We won't cave to those who engage in vandalism or dishonor the memory of our veterans.
Trudeau says the hate on the Hill needs to end and issued this warning to the Conservatives' leader.
Erin O'Toole is going to need to reflect very carefully on how he's walking a path that supports these people who do not represent truckers, let alone the vast majority of Canadians.
The Prime Minister knows that the voices of a few don't represent the millions of Canadians who are worried. Millions of Canadians over 2 years have seen their lives upended, their children's mental health impacted. Businesses fail, Mr. Speaker.
O'Toole met with protesting truckers, so did its deputy leader Candice Bergen, who said they deserve respect. The NDP disagrees.
We saw the Nazi flag being flown, the Confederate flag being flown, and instead of denouncing and making it clear that this type of hate has no place in Canada, the leader of the official opposition and his Conservative MPs left the door open to this type of hate in Canada.
The NDP and the Liberals say it's time for these protesters to go home, but some say they aren't leaving until they get what they want. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
And speaking of Erin O'Toole, major political news is developing out of Ottawa tonight. Sources tell CBC News Conservative leader Erin O'Toole is facing an internal revolt, and some MPs are preparing to trigger a vote on his future as soon as Wednesday. Sources say MPs opposed to O'Toole's leadership have collected enough signatures to hold a secret ballot to decide his fate, and at least 60 MPs agree he has to go. A Conservative source tells CBC News the move to oust O'Toole stems from the Tories allowing unanimous consent to make conversion therapy illegal in Canada, and that the far right of the party is angry with O'Toole because he defended LGBTQ+ rights. Still, a post-election report found O'Toole was overmanaged during the campaign. While a vocal minority protests public health measures, millions of Canadians are living in provinces where some restrictions are easing. From bars and restaurants reopening to in-person learning again, there's more for people to do as the Omicron wave appears to recede. And as Katie Nicholson shows us, some say it's time for a new approach.
After climbing the walls at home, they're thrilled at last to be climbing the walls here.
Everybody's very excited to get back on the walls.
Across Ontario and Quebec, the reopening has begun, albeit with limited capacity. While in New Brunswick and PEI, happy reunions as students return to school. The number of people dying and hospitalized from COVID-19 is still high across the country, but the Omicron wave of infections may have crested, say officials. And key indicators, like wastewater testing, suggest it is time to relax restrictions.
It's all good news. We are ready for this step.
Ontario's top doctor suggests perhaps COVID is here to stay and we should deal with it.
We have to learn to live with this virus.
A sentiment shared in BC.
We cannot eliminate all risk, and I think that's something that we need to understand and accept as this virus has changed and has become part of what we will be living with for years to come.
And Saskatchewan.
There's been a market shift in people across Canada that are now looking at how do we live with COVID.
But for those with compromised immune systems, it's not so easy.
It could absolutely be deadly, especially if we're not putting in the right safeguards, other than just, hermetically sealing these individuals off from the rest of society.
Still, for pandemic-pummeled businesses, there is hope that with vaccines, hygiene and masks, maybe this reopening will take.
I'm feeling optimistic this time around for sure that hopefully this is going to be the last lockdown and we can just get back to sort of, regular life.
But as the sudden Omicron surge has shown, living with COVID could be precarious. And regular life easily derailed by the emergence of yet another deadly variant.
That's hard.
Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
Boris Johnson is once again apologizing tonight after a much-awaited report came out looking into his Downing Street lockdown parties. The inquiry was launched after allegations that the Prime Minister and his staff flouted rules attending several gatherings in the last 2 years.
I understand the anger that people feel. But, Mr. Speaker, it isn't enough to say sorry. This is a moment when we must look at ourselves in the mirror and we must learn.
Johnson says his government can still be trusted. The report only makes conclusions of 4 of the 16 events it investigated, calling them a serious failure of leadership. The findings for the others were withheld after police launched a criminal investigation into the alleged breach of lockdown rules. We're nearing 2 years of living through the pandemic, and if you're feeling a little on the isolated side, well, you're not alone. How a Vancouver filmmaker took to the streets to reconnect. Next.
Dams along this 30-kilometer stretch of British Columbia's Kootenay River. Half belong to the oldest power company in the valley, West Kootenay Power and Light. The machinery today is almost exactly the same as it was in 1928, when the main generating station was built. And although many people think of West Kootenay as theirs, really it is Kaminko's, first used to supply power to the giant smelter and trail. Last year, Kaminko put the power company up for sale.
we definitely needed the money. We had too much debt, and this was part of a debt reduction program.
The 50-year-old power company went to the highest bidder, in this case, an American corporation.
We are a utility. We feel West Kootenay is a good investment, and we think we can benefit the West Kootenay area through managing West Kootenay.
But in towns like Kelowna, home to some of West Kootenay Power's 97,000 customers, it is not just a question of good business. Right now, they enjoy the lowest power rates in British Columbia.
We wouldn't even know for it.
The BC Utilities Commission must approve the sale. What was supposed to be a simple 5-day hearing in October has grown to more than 20 days. The companies involved hadn't prepared for the opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
The people are saying, for goodness sakes, listen to us for a change. We're tired of having politicians and big business people tell us that this is the way the country is going to be run, and just live with it because we know what's best.
To many of the people who live here, it's not a question of whether their power rates go up or down. The important issue, they say, is whether any Canadian utility company should be sold to an American corporation.
We were waving the Canadian flag, and we were saying, here we are we Canadians.
Their fight to keep West Kootenay Power and Light Canadian has attracted the attention of the Council of Canadians. At a public meeting in Kelowna this week, Mel Hertig promised legal help to try to block the sale if the BC Utilities Commission approves it.
You might as well take this, and you might as well run it up on top of all the dams and fly the American flag from now on.
It's the loss of the sovereignty, the loss of the water rights, the loss of our entire privileges as Canadians.
It's gradually going to control us, you know, our water and everything else.
We're losing our control over our utilities and ultimately probably over our whole country.
At every meeting, more and more people join up to fight the American takeover. Many are frustrated because so far theirs has been a problem here in British Columbia, and they think keeping West Kootenay should be a cause for all Canadians.
I'm not born in this country, and it took me a long time to become a Canadian, but since I'm a Canadian, I want to keep every part Canadian.
Karen Webb, CBC News, Kelowna, British Columbia. Here are some of the stories we're following tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
High school sport and what it means to these kids. They've done everything we have asked them to do in terms of preparing. There was a lot of excitement for this season right here, and unfortunately, a lot of it has been canceled.
Frustration from parents and players calling for high school sports tournaments in BC to resume. Starting today, youth club sports can hold tournaments, so many are questioning the double standard. They also say it's hurting young people's chances of scholarships and affecting their mental health. Multiple RCMP units are investigating the death of a young man whose body was found on Kamloops reserve land. It's being treated as a homicide, and no other information is being released about the victim at this time. 2 years of pandemic guidelines have stoked feelings of isolation and loneliness among many of us. In a new 3-part CBC Creator Network series, Vancouver filmmaker Johanna Wagstaffe takes to the streets to search for moments of connection. In the first episode, he talks to people outside a SkyTrain station. This is the opposite of isolated.
I've always wanted to go out with my camera and take photos of strangers. Listen to their stories, hear what they have to say. These last few years have been the loneliest of my life. I find myself searching for moments of connection with others now more than ever. So I decided to go out with my camera and start talking to whoever crosses my path. Except I'm not interested in talking so much as just listening. Have you ever seen someone walking down the street and wondered, what's their story?
I came back from a trip in 2019. I arrived at the airport, and my greatest supporters, friends, team members were there waiting for me. And I came through Arrivals with my speaker on, and we all danced in YVR Arrivals. All those people there, I have abandoned in some form. I care so much about connection and belonging. So the memories where I've truly hurt people and made people cry, and I've excluded them, it hurts when I think about those. When I think about those past versions of myself.
To interact like face to face like this, and I miss those feelings. My dad passed away like 10 years ago, and now there's only mom. I talk with her every night. Like there's not one, maybe sometimes that I'm so emotional, sorry. Because I want like my mom to be with me in my bad days, and she wished that she were with me, and she wished that the pandemic ended so I can go back to Vietnam to be with her. So to me, like being present is very important with people, with physical touch. I miss that. I miss my mom, and I miss some of my very close friends in Vietnam.
That's very nice. That's beautiful. Yeah.
I don't know what I'm looking for yet. A feeling of connection with the people around me, something we have in common that makes us feel less alone.
My mom. I just grew up with my mom. I never had a dad. Well, I guess I had a dad, but I never met him. So it's tough because I have like Native in me, and I get some from my mom, but he had a lot more, and I would have liked to know a little bit about that. But I never met him, and I tried. So that's tough.
What do you think people misunderstand about each other?
It's the distance. It's not so bad anymore, but you know, you'll see a lineup at a bus station. Everyone will be 6 feet apart. Get on the bus, you're this far apart. So a lot of people get a little weird. And I think misunderstanding is, I think people think they're all alone. And we are kind of a society that needs that closeness. And without it, some people might get left behind. And that's sad. And it's tough. Maybe we should all be a little more loving.
My theory is that most people don't actually get the chance to feel heard in their day-to-day life. But pretty much everyone has something to say if you ask the right way.
Quebec is banning oil heating in new homes, so that has people looking for greener alternatives. The rise of geothermal next. At 6:42, a live look tonight at BC Place. A spectacular and sunny day here on the coast. But buckle up, winter is set to return. Joe breaks it down next.
My mother came across the name of your grandmother and realised that she obviously was concerned about the situation there and wasn't afraid to speak out about it like a lot of people were. My mother had managed to get over. My father couldn't get a visa to come over, and she must have written to your grandmother saying, I really have to get my husband over.
Dear Frau Buchwald, I have received your letter. I promise you that I will do all in my power for your husband, and am deeply touched by the photograph of your beautiful little boy. I have one myself of just that age, 9 years, as my daddy. I have already been in touch with the organization which is dealing with Jewish children here. I am thankful that you are here and safe with your little boy, but I know you must be tortured thinking of your husband and your other child. Did he get out?
I haven't got my specs on me, actually.
Do you want to borrow these?
Thanks. Lovely. Ooh. I was so moved when I saw this. He arrived at Harwich without a visa. And then he was accepted by the British...
Something.
You want your specs?
I need my specs back.
You read it to me.
And then he was accepted by the British on grounds of a guarantee by Lady Bonham Carter, you. Then of 40 Gloucester Square. So she came to the rescue.
Completely.
Oh, fantastic. I'm so glad.
The day after he arrived, the borders were closed.
How extraordinary.
His relatives, he had several brothers. I saw the family name on the list of the people that had gone to the concentration camps. And the kindness of just one woman, the effect it has on not only the people that she reaches out to, but to my generation,
the future.
The future. I've always known and been proud of the fact that I was named after her.
She found it appalling what she'd heard about how Jews were being treated, and she wasn't going to stand for it. She had great heart and great words. This terrible tyranny and oppression surely cannot last, as children must live to see the dawn of another day and to grow up in freedom, justice, and tolerance. If not, one would rather they were dead.
In an effort to tackle carbon pollution, Quebec has banned oil heating in newly constructed homes. As of next year, Quebecers will not be allowed to replace their furnaces with systems powered by fossil fuels. And as Jayla Bernstein explains, that won't be an issue for a small group of homeowners in Montreal.
The whole system is still in the home, the old system.
It's not every day you see a home from the 1920s heated and cooled with a ground source heat pump.
Oh, it's warm. You can feel it warm. This is the water going through the radiators, exactly.
It's a pioneering setup. This geothermal system is retrofitted to work in an older home and shared. 7 apartments in neighboring buildings, all hooked into wells dug in this backyard 150 meters underground.
This is what's coming from his house into mine. So this liquid goes into the thermal pump and back to the earth.
It's taken 6 years to get here. There were roadblocks, delays, and challenges.
A few people did back out, yes, and a few lost interest.
Community organization Solon led the project, adapting to technical, financial, and legal hurdles.
We planned too big to start with. So the plan was 3 alleys, digging through the alleys, connecting everybody, and that was big.
So they shrank it down, shifting to a small-scale cluster of apartments. She says she hopes others will replicate her model.
It's like a dream, like we're heating 5 dwellings for less electricity than I was heating myself.
A report in 2017 looked at installing a similar system in Toronto, but consultants said it would cost homeowners between $25,000 and $40,000 just for the installation.
With natural gas as kind of a very affordable heating source for families and
for homes right now, there's not much incentive to switch to, doing all of this work and all of this upfront cost.
In Quebec, most homes are heated with hydroelectric power. For now, Hydro-Quebec is mainly encouraging geothermal systems for new buildings.
That program does target buildings that are the best suited for the solution.
So we have 8 wells.
But she insists more people can do what she did by sharing the cost between neighbors and with the help of government subsidies.
You just have to have people who want to do it. It's so simple.
Jayla Bernstein, CBC News, Montreal.
Okay, speaking of the need to heat your home, meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe joins us now. Joe, how's that midweek snow coming along?
Yes, this is the perfect segue, Anita. We are getting into a modified Arctic air mass over the next couple of nights. So winter certainly not done here on the West Coast. Let me show you where that air mass is right now with the current temperatures. It's the dark blues and pinks, and you can see it's starting to once again descend down across British Columbia. So seeing some cold temperatures in through the north tonight. And as our high pressure ridge sinks south, that's stage left there, sinking south, opening the door to that cooler air filtering down across the province. So flurries tonight through the southern interior and the Kootenays, those will clear out as that cold air moves in. Here's a snapshot Wednesday, 10 a.m. with that cold air in place and a moist Pacific system moving in from the west. That collision will mean snow for a huge swath of the province, including Metro Vancouver. Now, at this point, it doesn't look like a huge event. I'll break it down for you in a moment, but it does mean a lot of mountain snow. Pretty much everyone across the province seeing some kind of snow Wednesday into Thursday. Early look at snowfall totals, and a couple days out, these certainly could change. We'll see that snow at this point start to ramp up Wednesday midday. This model, just taking you through the first half of Wednesday, bringing a trace amount to Metro Vancouver. The other models, the upper ends of the snowfall, more like 10 centimeters. So that's our range, trace to 10 centimeters. I imagine we're going to end up somewhere in between, maybe a couple centimeters. And I will definitely be fine-tuning that as we head through the day tomorrow and we get the latest model runs. Snapshot of tomorrow, we're still under that high pressure ridge. So lots of sunshine for the province. Notice that -12 up towards Prince George, colder still as you head up towards Fort Nelson and Fort St. John. Starting to see that rain show up for Prince Rupert, Fort Hardy, some drizzle, and Cranbrook, you've got those lingering flurries for one more day. So let's get you through the first 5 days of the forecast first. Mainly sunny skies for tomorrow. We'll see some clouds though in the morning, slight chance of some precip. Notice Tuesday overnight into Wednesday, -1. So that will set the stage for snow on Wednesday. At this point, temperatures will warm up to 3, so we may see some mixing through the afternoon. And with warmer air back in the picture for Thursday, Friday, it does look like we're back to rain. At this point, the weekend, never too early to look, mix of sun and cloud. But yes, I'll be keeping my eye on Wednesday. Definitely some kind of snow. I'm leaning towards the couple centimeter variety.
Agreed. Never too early to look at the weekend. I mean, that's what we're all looking forward to anyway.
Right.
And glad I might not have to bust out the shovel. So thanks, Joe.
Yes. I'm not saying throw them away, but this is where we're at right now. I'll keep you posted.
Okay.
The weather update is brought to you by Sophia Financial Group of Raymond James Limited. Register now for our free Cash Flow Connection series at sophiaevents.ca.
Well, how would you feel about working a little less? Perhaps a 4-day week? Why some businesses are now putting that on the docket.
The goal number one for a track like this is basically to do some drifting. That means that you're gonna take your vehicle and go sideways. A good way to do a drift is basically to pull on your handbrake on your car while turning, and it will basically initiate your drift.
Being out here, being on the ice, it's a completely different experience. It's like nothing I've ever done in my life.
So it's the second year we built a track here in Ghost Lake. This year we ended up having a good following on our Instagram page. We just posted a picture that went viral all around Alberta here. Every weekend it's more and more people are coming here. We use regular winter tires, studdable, but instead of putting those regular studs, we went with ATV studs, which are longer. So with this, we get more traction on the ice. It's way better for us for practicing. It gets a little bit the same feeling as driving on pavement. Our team, we compete during the summer on a real racetrack, and the thing is, while we drift, we go through tires. Tires are expensive, so we end up spending a lot of money during the season. So it's a very good practice for us to go on ice because it doesn't affect the vehicle as much as the summer. For people that come here with their regular everyday car, maybe just park on the side and look around. We'll just see what people are doing, how they're doing it. After that, if you want to go on the track, I will do a few laps just driving it to get comfortable with the feeling of the ice because it is very different than pavement. Then maybe you can start going with your steering a little more, initiate some drift, try to pull your handbrake. But definitely, I will be careful because it's your everyday vehicle. You don't want to break it. Because it's a public place, we can't really put any rules in place. It's just the common sense. If you're on the track and you're driving around and you see a car that is faster than you coming at the back, then maybe just pull away, let him pass. Be respectful with everyone. Don't try to be a hero and go super fast when you don't know what you're doing. The warm weather isn't good for sure. Everything melts on the top and it just turns into water. And then after that, it freezes at night. So you end up with a track that's very bumpy. 2 weeks of warm weather will basically make the track go away for a bit until we get cold weather, then we can redo the process again. Under 12 inches, it is too thin for a truck to drive on for sure. Car might be okay, but under 12 inches, we're not going on the lake anymore. The plan for the future is to keep doing a track here in Ghost Lake every single year, and every year is going to get better and better for the track design for sure.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
Get Metro Vancouver news that matters to you all in one place as it happens wherever you are with the free CBC News app. It's easy to use. Open the app and set your local tab to BC for news that's curated to you. And you can even watch live streams of CBC Vancouver News at 6 with Anita Bathe and other CBC News broadcasts on the go. Download the free CBC News app and stay connected to where you live.
The job market in Canada has become very tight as the country pushes through the latest wave of COVID-19. According to Stats Canada, job vacancies are still 72% higher than before the pandemic. And as Nisha Patel tells us, that has employers looking for new ways to attract and keep top talent.
These Saskatoon tech workers have found a way to beat the Monday blues.
How do we undo the pressures of a pandemic, right, that everyone is feeling?
Romeo Ayula says staff burnout had him rethinking priorities. In November, he told his 85 employees they only had to work 4 days a week.
We really wanted people to take those breaks, to relax, to disconnect from work.
Staff put in 32 hours of work, but are paid for 40 hours.
Being able to schedule appointments on that day is huge.
While employees are benefiting, so is the company's bottom line.
Their focus had increased, the quality of their work had increased.
And with employers desperate to find workers, it's a perk more are using to capture the attention of job seekers.
I think the big driver behind this is going to be recruitment, retention, and succession planning. You can't keep your talent, then you got to do something.
Experts say the benefits of working fewer days can be priceless.
Increased loyalty, increased ability to balance, particularly for people who are caregivers.
Iceland ran the world's largest trial of reduced working hours. Stress and sick days sank, and workers were just as productive. Still, there are challenges. It's easier to implement for those sitting behind a desk than it is for those on the front lines.
I can actually see two classes of workers out there, the haves and the have-nots.
Globally, big brands like Panasonic and Unilever have taken a run at it.
That would be cool to have on the wall.
Closer to home, this architecture firm just launched a 6-month pilot. Staff work a condensed week of 4 9-hour days.
So far, so good. It's, I can see that people are responding very positively to it.
After all, if working from home was unimaginable before the pandemic, perhaps wider adoption of a shorter work week is not such a stretch of the imagination. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
And it's not like we didn't see this one coming. Wordle, the popular game that's been dominating our brains and social media feeds, has been sold. The New York Times bought the once-a-day mind-bender for an undisclosed price in the low 7 figures. Creator Josh Wordle said all the attention he's been getting has been a little overwhelming and that the fit with the media giant feels natural. Thankfully, it will remain free to play. And for the record, money is not today's Wordle, and since the day is not over, we just won't go there. That is it for our show tonight. We leave you with a sight that's become somewhat rare during a very gray January. It's the sunset. One of our camera operators captured these images from where else? Sunset Beach this evening. We hope to catch you back with us tomorrow night.